Welcome to Untamed Blossoms, the podcast where we celebrate the untamed journey of womanhood. Here, we tell the stories of incredible women who have embraced their authenticity, inspiring others to do the same.
From entrepreneurs to artists, activists to adventurers, we share triumphs, challenges, and the beauty of self-discovery. These are the stories of women blazing their own trails, breaking free, and blooming unapologetically.
Join us to connect, be inspired, and celebrate the power of women's stories. Together, let's rewrite the rules and embrace our wildness.
Welcome to Untamed Blossoms. I'm your host, Amanda Riley.
And I'm Cristi Riley. Welcome, pod, into the
New studio under our neon sign.
Cheers to that, girl.
Cheers.
Cheers to that. So this is how we envision this always to be, sitting here, sipping your coffee, my tea, underneath the neon sign, getting ready for our next guest, who's actually going to flip scripts today. Sarah Wren is coming to interview us about our last year, which we did a recap. But with Sarah, it's going to be deep. I know it. We're going to go to some deep places.
Yep.
A 99.9% chance I cry.
I'm going to say 100%.
It's giving a small chance that I might not.
I wholeheartedly anticipate you crying.
It's possible. It's going to happen.
So
Cristi cries. We've determined this.
I love it because it is genuinely you.
Yeah.
And I love that when you feel moved, you just cry. I like to fight it until I'm alone. I never cry on air, but when I get home and I'm editing, I'm like, oh my God, that was so beautiful. But in real life, I'm like, lock it up. Lock it up. We have a job to do. Do not.
I can't.
No, that's how it should be.
I can't.
Correct.
It just, every emotion comes in tears. So, yeah.
I am so pumped that we have a whole lot of guests lined up for January.
Yes, girl. We are coming after it. We do not do resolutions, y'all.
Nope.
We wholeheartedly believe in springtime is the time to get moving on things. So we are still planning and getting things lined up and resting. And we have busy January and February already scheduled, but not so busy that it feels overwhelming or, we just are real excited. And everybody that we were reaching out to is saying yes. We have a lot of cool guests coming on, some here central to Columbus, some we have found on social media and have reached out and they've said yes.
We have someone that we're interviewing that literally lives in Canada.
Yeah. It's going to be amazing.
It's very exciting.
Yeah.
And I am excited that I don't want to say we pivoted away, but we are definitely way more focused on the podcast and making sure we're telling women's stories. And I think we have an incredible lineup of people who are entrepreneurs and people just who have a beautiful story of overcoming things in life that is so relatable that everyone can take away and say, wow, that was really helpful. So.
Well, and this really was born out of what we said before on our wrap-up show is, we really sat with the feedback we were getting, and what we thought was going to be the learnable topic wasn't always that. It was something random that somebody said that really resonated with somebody. And it just brought us to this place of, you never know what's going to speak to people.
Yeah.
And just giving everyone, where they got a business, they're a parent, they're a doggy mom, they're a wife, they're a sister, they're a daughter. They all have unique stories to tell. They all have wisdom to share with us. And we discover ourselves through these other people and through their stories, and we see ourselves in them in weird glimpses that we didn't realize was going to be that way.
Yeah.
And I think that's really beautiful. And we've decided to really just I don't want to say pivot because it was already part of our structure, but really lean into that structure and continue to highlight the things that are important to us, continue to highlight things about the community, about nature, things that we're passionate about, but also just letting women tell their stories of any kind.
Yep, absolutely.
And that's really what 2025 is all about.
Yeah. I also think that when we are leaning more into the storytelling, the podcasting, it gives us a chance to make meaningful events for people to build community
Right.
and, sisterhood and all these things. We can put a bunch of events on the books and that's fine, but making sure the ones that we're having really foster that connection, I think is
Right.
what we want to accomplish. These events will be free. There will be moon circles. They will be Valentine's Day events or like our clothing swap coming up here in January. It will just be meaningful connections and a place for people to build
Yes.
relationships. So
Yes. And we're leaning into Untamed Blossoms Farm. That my husband and I have officially decided that that will be the name of this place. And flowers everywhere. I can't wait to just plant flowers all over the place and just make this place beautiful. A beautiful place just to gather and be. As
totally.
much as it feels good, I want it to look good. So
Yeah.
look beautiful and make us feel good. So
Yeah.
I'm excited.
It's going to be amazing.
All
So,
right. Sarah,
well,
bring it on, girl. Here's to
yep.
2025. So
Cheers.
cheers.
All right. Welcome to the pod, Sarah. First time in the new studio.
Thank you. I am so excited to be here.
Doesn't it feel so cozy?
Very good.
We're so excited to see you.
I'm so excited to see both of you.
It's been so long. You were like our second guest on the pod.
Mm-hmm.
So long and so short. You guys are like, we're going to start a podcast. And
3 days later.
Like, do you want to be a guest on that podcast?
look at how much has happened in like very short time. How long does it feel like it's been for both of you?
It feels like a full year. And it
Yeah.
wasn't. I mean, our first episode was in June.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels like it feels like we've been doing it for a longer period of time, and yet it also feels like we've only been doing it for a very short period of time,
Yeah.
all at the same time,
Yeah.
which is really weird.
Really
That's how
like
I feel.
the
Yeah.
halfway mark in a year right now.
Yeah.
And already have accomplished so much.
So
We were just talking about how when we first started, we had like blankets over our heads. We were like trying to like
one microphone.
buying like random sound blockers. And it's just so crazy.
Yeah, the evolution of everything. Can you guys talk about that? Like how step by step what have been like the most important steps do you think to being at this point in this studio?
One listening to you talk about the business, what the business was expecting, right? And really sitting in that and being okay, sitting with you and having Untamed Blossoms chart done really cleared up a lot for us. I think gave us a clear path to continue to trial and error because that's what she wants to do.
Yeah.
But being okay with pivoting, it gave us not, we're manifesting generators, so we can just just dig in, you know, just keep at it, and this gives us permission to try and stop. And if something's not working, then let's pivot and let's listen to the people that we're interviewing. Let's listen to the people who are listening to us. So I think mostly listening to you has given us permission, and having that reading has been huge in allowing this to shift to multiple different things. Before we had that reading, we were almost in contract for a venue that was going to cost a lot of money. Do you remember that?
The different timelines that have happened, and really you're saying you're listening to me, which is very kind of generous, but it's really you're listening to the energy of the business and working with that and being in conversation and relationship with it. But yeah, can you imagine an alternative timeline right now with a venue?
Oh my God, we'd be stressed out. Neither one of us would have any hair left. I mean, it would be really insane if we had gone through with that, I think.
Well, and I think too, the moment we talked about having a podcast, we both knew. And instead of forcing something different because what we had said or what we had shared with what we wanted to do, just saying like, no, but this feels right. And I think that's important. It's easy, I think, for both of us to say like, yeah, but we said we were going to do this, or we had already talked about this. We just let it happen with what felt right. And that's a big change from where I think we have both been in the past.
Well, we kind of let our intuition guide us instead of the drive for money or it monetizing anything, or we really just let intuition guide, even though I tried not to sometimes.
What would you say have been like your biggest like pings of this feels right? Like that intuitive hit that feels so good. If you were like window shopping for what feels good right now, what are those things that are feeling good?
Honestly, having a microphone right in front of my face, nothing's felt better or more right in my whole life. I mean, every time for me, like I do love technology. I love equipment. I've always been that way. I love sitting in a radio studio in college. Like I loved interning at 10 TV and seeing everyone around with this like media platform. Like it's always been huge for me. And even when I got my aura read, she was like, you're meant to like have a platform, to have your voice out there. So anytime we get closer to that, like I just feel it. Like I just know it feels right. It feels good. It never feels scary to me. It's always like exciting and expansive. I'm like, oh,
Have you named your microphones yet? Because guys, they're so amazing. Very cool. I
We
feel
have not named them yet. We
no.
should.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should name them.
Do
We'll have
that.
to give some energy to that. We have not named them. Yes, stay
Yeah.
tuned for sure. Yeah. No, we were so excited to have them. It was when we were unboxing them, like, oh my God, they're so heavy.
These are real microphones.
We can't hold these for hours while we're interviewing people. We have to have stands. So it's been really cool. Yeah.
What about, do you have a top thing for what's feeling intuitively right in the right now?
When we sat down a few weeks ago and said, we're not going to focus as much on events as we are going to focus on the podcast, that was huge for me. Yeah. Because I thought that we both thought, this is being honest, you guys, like I thought Amanda really wanted to do the events, and she thought I really wanted to do the events, and turns out neither one of us really wanted to. Not any events, but like really lean into like 2 or 3 a week, right? Or creating a membership where people would come for events, or like we've, because we come up with a lot of ideas. We've talked about a lot of different things, and we came into our planning session with both of us expecting to have that conversation. And I led with, I think we need to double down on the podcast. And she's like, oh my God, thank God. I thought I was going to have to fight for this, And so it turns out we were on the same intuitive path already, but thinking the other one wanted something different. So that changed our course of our meeting in like 20 seconds.
What do you think allows you both to be at ease with when things are pivoting? Because I think a lot of times that can feel like things are out of control for many people. So if you have any like tips, tricks for like how to either like suspend yourself and just let it happen, or just what is that like for you both?
I would say what's interesting is I think it's more of my like design and my chart that allows me to be really comfortable with change and pivoting. I'm not really someone that's stuck in a way of doing something, but I like routine. So for me, it's more like, okay, the thing can change, but like we still need to have a routine. We still need to have some structure around what we're doing. The what can change all at once, but like making sure we're saying, okay, but Monday's our recording day, or making sure we're being really diligent on tracking our guests. Like, and if it were events, I would say we need to be really diligent on tracking our events and making sure we're using the right tools to do that. So I think finding what works for you to maybe give you the illusion of control, or like what works for you to like make sure that you have some sort of hand in the structure, and then allow the what to flow. For me, that's very helpful.
I agree with the structure part. Having structure during change, I think, is key. And out of our meeting was like, this is what that looks like. This is what you're responsible for. This is what we're both responsible for. This is what the other one's responsible for. This is how we're going to move the needle and making sure that we're reaching as many people. Here's here's the kind of guests we're going to reach out to. We're going to expand that. We're going to have it be not just business owners. We're going to, so it felt really natural to me. But I will say that in the moments where I start to, we need to monetize, we need to, like, my business mind kicks in, those are the moments where I have to listen to you guys. That's where the people in your life, I think, are really important, who can reflect honestly to you, like, whoa, like, you don't have to go full force. You don't have to. It's one of the biggest gifts I've gotten this year is being reminded that what comes naturally to me and what I do easily, and just because it comes easily to me doesn't mean that it's not work and it's not valuable. I don't always have to go above and beyond and push, that I can be easy in this and let it arrive. And it is, and it's been beautiful, but just, I think, make sure you have solid people around you that can ground you when you're feeling untethered and reminding you of, and this beautiful soul next to us, Amanda, has done. She's got such a gift, right? And even the little reels that she puts together to put on to remind us, like the last 6 months of what we've done, and she put that little reel together, was so beautiful. Of course, I cried, and it was just it was a lot. I mean, I'm like, what a bunch of life in a short period of time.
Yeah.
And it's easy to lose sight of that when you're just in the do, and you never sit back and go, wow, look what we did.
Yeah.
And be excited about it. And then it's easier, I feel like, to be in the pivot mode where you're not as, you're not getting, you don't see your productivity as easy. Sometimes you just need to sit back and be like, wow, look what we've accomplished already.
Yeah. And that's what I know you guys have already done, kind of some recap and review. And I inserted myself and said, I'd really love to interview you both about really just this concept of emotional superlatives around like episodes, and from not just a place of review, but I think when we go back and we honor and we celebrate the things, it's like you're pouring strength and energy back into those interviews and those connections, and something even more can grow from just this mini review. So do you feel ready to answer some questions?
Yes. We warned everyone, Sarah's going to go deep with us.
So should we start on like emotionally harder side, or
Yeah, I think so. Just dig in.
Yeah, we're ready.
Let's get in there. I love it.
so how about Amanda? What episode would you say brought up like feeling the most, felt like it was kind of pushing your edge of what you thought, or like maybe you were nervous even in preparing for it?
I think for me, both sobriety episodes with Brittany and then myself, because what's interesting about talking about sobriety is I feel like I'm really open with it, but there are some really hard, dark times that go along with sharing your story around that. And I, of course, Brittany just celebrated her 3-year anniversary yesterday of being
Congratulations.
sober. So that's so exciting. And her getting sober first. And I was through a lot of that with her, like almost a whole year before I got sober. And hearing some of her dark times, that was like really hard for me to just listen as someone interviewing versus like a best friend.
Yeah.
Knowing how deep her despair got at points. And then on the flip side, telling my story and talking about my sobriety when Cristi interviewed me, it was saying things that I really didn't want other people to know, or me being anxious that people will hear me say things and think, oh, she's talking about me, because I know I've said that to her before. And it really wasn't about any one person saying any one thing. It was just sharing how hard it can be. Although I'm very grateful that things have changed in the industry and this younger generation has really been moving away from alcohol, it's still in every part of your life. It's in every celebration. It's in every song and movie. Like it's such a massive part of our culture. it always feels like anxiety ridden for me to approach those conversations because at the core of it, I'm still a people pleaser and I still don't want to upset people or make people feel like I'm talking about them when I'm talking about sobriety. So those two were definitely ones I was nervous about, whereas I'm usually not nervous to record at all. So.
Yeah. How, like, what's your level of nerves even right now talking
Yeah,
about
can you
it?
see that suddenly I'm like folding in, my whole body is like this because it does feel like something I'm protective of.
Yeah.
And it still feels hard to talk about that. And people in my life that I love a lot drink and I wish they wouldn't. And think that I'm like passing judgment because at the end of the day, I do want them to be sober. So it's still a weird thing for me to talk about.
Yeah. Anything that was helping you to cope with, like, when those episodes aired, just your own internal self-talk, self-care when those were out?
For Brittany, I was more proud of her for being able to use her voice and share what she had went through. Like, it was hard for me not just like want to like wrap my body around her body the whole interview and be like, but you're okay and everything's great now. Like, that's me trying to move past the feelings. And one thing sobriety teaches you is you can't. You have to sit. You can't numb out anymore. And that's a huge bummer when you're learning it and you're like, oh no, this is going to be so hard. So it reminded me of like, okay, she's allowed to share her feelings. I don't need to fix this for her. She's sharing her experience. And then for myself, what helped me work through that was just like, but this is my experience and I'm allowed to talk about and share and be vulnerable. We had an episode about vulnerability, which is not my favorite thing.
I know. When I was stumbling over challenging, I was like, and the word I was looking for was vulnerable.
Yeah. I told Cristi something that's really weird is I always think people probably think I'm so mysterious and they probably are just like,
this whole conversation.
oh my gosh, like I don't even know about her life. And I'm like, why would anyone think that about me? I literally never stop talking. Like, of course, everyone knows everything about me, but I have this perception of like, I'm in control of the narrative. And as long as I'm in control of the narrative, I can keep all those parts that are really hard and like I don't want to talk about deep down. I can overlay it with humor. I never have to go there, as you know. So yeah, I shove that stuff down.
Okay. And I really, like, I think you are busting through shoving that stuff down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you've been helpful. Our workshops have been helpful. Like learning that like you can feel safe in those moments are helpful. But if one incident happens, like it just feels like one thing of sliding backwards. So it's constantly just reminding yourself that you're safe and that you surround yourself with people who
Absolutely. Yeah. How about you, Cristi? Any episode or topic that felt particularly vulnerable for you?
I think several episodes were triggering for me. I had triggering moments, but I think the most nervous I got as an interviewer was the first time we interviewed somebody that I didn't know. I like sitting around chatting like girlfriends and having some familiarity with them made me feel, and that was the first time I was like, imposter syndrome sort of showed up in my brain. Like, should I be doing this? Did I prep enough? Do I know that? Am I just going, yeah? Like I'm all up in my head during that episode. It was really funny, and I said that to Amanda afterwards. I'm like, that was terrible. She's like, no, it was great. And I was like, okay, so just letting it sort of naturally evolve, and that was pretty soon too after we had started, and I still wasn't comfortable with sharing it on social media, having my voice out there. Like I had a whole lot of that I was like, I'm not sure about all of this.
Yeah.
I want to share people's stories, but having myself out there felt really like, I don't know, like this or not? Is this okay? Um, and then something just sort of happened a few months in, and I was like, you know what? I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck no more. It just sort of all like it was okay.
Yeah. And if you were to put a word out there to future interviewees who you don't yet know of like what your wish and intention is for them to feel?
From me?
Yeah.
That I care about them,
Yeah.
and that I'm interested in what they have to say, and I'm interested in their story. I'm interested in them as a human. I'm interested in what I can learn from myself through them.
Yeah.
What they're going to reflect to me about myself through their story, sage wisdom that they carry that's meant to be delivered to me.
Yeah.
There's and those are the things that I want to carry forward in interviews, and not if I'm stumbling over the next question or my ums and thens and ands and
Yeah.
but really being just genuinely interested. And I've just really been tried to be relaxed in our interviews since then, and absorbing their story and really giving honest feedback about my emotion about it, and letting that lead the conversation versus just I had interviews.
That's the core of of vulnerability that we're talking about here
Yeah.
is can you sit and be present at a friend and love and caring level, even with people that you don't know who you're trying to appear professional with,
Yeah.
and just have an actual human conversation.
Yeah.
So,
And that's more authentically Amanda and I think
yeah.
that's our style.
Yeah.
We talked about that this morning, oddly enough, about what we're going to wear when we start videotaping ourselves. And I was like, I don't know. I think we should have bib overalls. And she's like, I might wear my hoodie and leggings. And I'm like, that's what you wear a lot of times.
Yeah.
Like, I just think that's who we are. And we
Yeah.
should be presenting that
Yeah.
and nothing but that,
Absolutely.
And I was like, I'm here for a fuzzy onesie that's a bib that says awesome.
Yeah.
And she was like, I am absolutely here for that. So there's nothing, but I had a moment, right?
Yeah.
You have a moment of like,
Yeah.
dress for success, the corporate America role,
Yeah.
and do what you think and make sure that you have this and that, and the other. And I'm like, or I'm going to show up out of the garden to record, right? Like
you're untamed and you
Right.
can do whatever you
And we
want
can
to
do whatever we want. And I want to cozy up on a blanket and drink our coffee and tea and have a
Yeah.
conversation. And that's what this is all about.
Yeah.
And I was so grateful to have a partner like her that is like, yeah, that's what we're going to do. That there's never any like one of us pushing the other one to be anything other than authentic. And I think that's been the beautiful experience of this podcast, Untamed Blossoms, our circles through Untamed Blossom. Like, it's truly been an accepting aura around it. And I just have to believe that is her aura. Untamed Blossoms is that exactly.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful. It's been really beautiful to be able to verbalize that and see it in action. So one thing to say it.
Right.
And it's another thing to watch it show up in everything that is done under that beautiful neon sign.
Yeah, and just know that the feeling that you're embedding into the episodes that people are listening and any events that they do happen to encounter you both at, that feeling of acceptance and authenticity and really deconditioning all the things that we think are supposed to be happening.
Right.
That's full permission. Get your fuzzy onesie on.
Any onesie I'm a fan of. I prefer one article of clothing, honestly. So.
Amanda, how about an episode that felt the most inspiring to you?
I would probably say Jen's episode for sure. Around just like surviving domestic abuse. I just thought like, man, women are so strong. Like so incredibly strong. And at the end of the day, no matter what we go through, like we still want to be the best person for those around us. And it was just so inspiring to hear her story and talk about all of that, but then still like what she wants to accomplish and what type of mother she wants to be and all those things in her design business and what she pours into other people and people's spaces. I thought it was so incredible, and it's definitely our number one most listened to episode. I think that speaks volumes to other people also listening and thinking like, wow, if someone can overcome this, what can't I overcome? So,
Yeah.
On top of that, I will say another one that I just thought was super inspiring in a different way was Jen's episode around yoga. So another Jen, turns out, 2 of them. Jen's out here with some serious knowledge. Yeah, if you're Jen, let us know. Because I just thought like, she was someone who was like crazy party scene, fun, fast forward, had her son and just thought like, how can I center myself? How can I make my life work for me? And she's a manifesting queen. That girl literally can manifest anything and everything that she does all the time. And so that was also really inspiring.
Nice.
How about you, Cristi? Anything that has been
Jen's episode was pretty,
Yeah.
it's pretty it was definitely pretty powerful. I think also a community-based one that I felt really inspired by was the Women Affirming Women episode, and Mimi talking about what that community stands for and who they're helping. I think it all speaks to strength, right? So Jen's strength through coming through a really difficult situation and coming out on the other side and being super successful at everything she does and continues to be not broken but a loving, kind human is really powerful. These are women that are taking care of people without any resources and continue to show up for them and work hard for them every day and never get a break. And here's a group of women who showed up to be like, you know what? We got you. We got your respite. We got your rest. We see you, warrior. We see how hard you're working and we're here to support you. And that organization is really doing powerful things quietly just in the perimeter, just holding these women up. And I think that was incredible. And I can't wait to talk to more people like that because I know there's a ton of mostly women run groups that are doing this exact work, this community based, if without women, they say that, right? Without women, your community falls apart.
Yeah.
And I think that's really true. And they're really stepping in and taking care of others in such a beautiful way. And I know that there's a bunch of them, and I can't wait to continue to shed light on them and talk to those people. But it was really inspiring to talk to her and hear what they do for these ladies to help make them feel special, even if it's for a weekend or for a day in their day-to-day stuff. I just love people that are creating that space for them. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely for you both. I hear that theme of overcoming obstacles, remaining kind and soft and connected. And I know soft is kind of have certain connotations with it, but really like a softening of this mentality that maybe we have had as women that like we need to be the ones who can do it and we should do it on our own. And really what you both are saying is so many of the ladies that you are encountering are recognizing the interconnectedness of everything and that it takes having those very close relationships. So it sounds like duh, but really I think so often we are all still trying to do a little bit too many things on our own.
I mean, we all silo ourselves still, and we all think like, okay, like I can just handle this myself. I might be speaking from experience. Like, oh, I can just move this heavy object up a flight of stairs by myself. Like, it's fine. Um, but at the end of the day, it's not about if you can, it's about why would you not reach out to people who can help support you or help you get through something, whether it be emotionally or physically. Um, it's important to build a community that you feel trusted with, that you can be vulnerable with.
Yeah. And this kind of, for me personally, this softening to everything is less about being soft or passive and more of just this like lightening the mood to things. Like as many times as I can remind myself that it's okay to be like silly goo. So
Yeah.
my next makes me wonder is if there was an episode that had any good laughs for you or just like this spirit of lightness to it that
Yeah, I liked Carrie's episode for that. Like I love her and her books I adore, and I think both of them were so wonderful. And She is someone who always makes me freaking laugh. We could be going through the most serious thing and she can call me and be like, oh my God, this thing's happening. And we might cry at the beginning of the phone call, but we're always like busting up in tears laughing by the end of our conversation. And she's done and accomplished so much, but she still always keeps it light. Like she's that person for me that I know if I yes, I want someone to hear me when I'm going through something, I'll call her. I know by the end I will just be cracking up.
I found any of them like particularly. I feel like I laugh at every episode.
Yeah.
I feel like Amanda Riley is hysterical most of the time. Like her delivery I find her amusing so often. It's like her delivery, her cadence. Like I think she says funny things all the time. So I feel like I'm in a joyful state just being around her in interview a lot. And our episode on joy, or just getting to know us, where we did the quick questions in the book that we asked each other. I thought that was hysterical. So I feel like we've gotten a lot of lightness out of a lot of our episodes, where people just are saying things that are funny and joyful, or just hysterical. Like I laugh, I cry, and
Someone reached out to me after we recorded our episode, that the quick question one that we did. And they were like, I have never laughed so hard at a moment I knew I shouldn't have. When Cristi gave this really deep answer about forgiveness, and she was really like, you have to forgive people, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, now what's yours? And I was like, well, I was going to say, I once called someone two-faced for not liking Taylor Swift and I never forgave her, but now I feel really dumb saying that. After you gave the most beautiful answer, and I thought, shit. All I could think about was the example of the Taylor Swift thing. So I was like, this is gonna sound so stupid, but honestly, it's all I could think of. And someone said that was like the best comic relief.
Oh my
God,
the balance. It was the best, and I think that and as much as you say you don't let your emotions out, the fact that you said that shit out loud. And you were like, well, I was going to say fucking people who don't like Taylor Swift, but you gave a really fucking deep answer. And now I can. And I was, and I immediately was like, tears were rolling. And I was like, oh my God, we were laughing our asses off. And that's what I mean, is that, we do have these moments where we're just, or we'll re-record something because I'll say something completely ridiculous at the end, and she'll be like, that was not okay.
Cristi's like, peace. I'm like, you really want to end our episode with peace?
We have a lot of fun doing all of this. Totally. Like people think I just say that, but I'm like, it really is not hard. And I love to talk to people, and it fills my cup. And so after, even despite technical difficulties that I seem to bring on, it still is, we still have a great time every time we record, and I leave with my cup full, and it's a great time. And so I'm never upset about recording afterwards.
Yeah.
It's great. How was recording today, honey? It was awesome. That's all I can say really, is that we had just had some technical difficulties that Amanda had to deal with, but otherwise it was really great.
My eyes just started twitching.
Right.
It never ends. You're right, though. That never overshadows like the fun that we have. Even though
in the moment it's difficult.
I'm like, wow.
How about if there was an episode that you like, if you could put it on repeat and listen again and again, what episode would that be?
I know this. I don't know why, but it's probably that first episode with Haley around imposter syndrome, because it was our very first one. And it's like going to always be like a really special one for me. Like, we did it. Yeah. Like, we freaking did it. The audio was horrible. Poor Haley came in having a podcast with her husband and was like, here's my headphones here. I'm like, we don't have anywhere for you to plug this in. Also, we have one microphone. Also, please sit closer. Also, speak louder. Like it was just us.
We might have to get under a blanket in a minute. It's okay.
Yeah, sorry about that. You definitely won't need those headphones. So, like, it just was such a bittersweet, like, there was so much we didn't know yet, but it was the first conversation, the first time like hearing all of our voices recording, my first time editing it. Like I definitely listened to that the most for sure. Because I tried to edit out every filler word.
Gotcha.
If you listen to it again, you'll be like, wow, that's weird. Because I was literally editing every single pause, like everything. So yeah, I just
That's
it
come a
holds a
long
special
way.
place. Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah.
let it be.
Yeah. I'm like, all
It's a
right.
lot.
That sniffle can stay.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. That's being vulnerable ourselves. That's real. That's some real talk, which is fine. Mine on repeat, what would it be? Sarah's.
My second one.
Yeah. I have to say Sarah's. Mostly because your voice is so soothing to me. I could listen to you just be in the background of my world and it would be soothing to me, you know? It wouldn't matter what you were saying.
Can you imagine Cristi running that sound of your voice as she tries to sleep and Stan being like, "Is Sarah in this room?" Like staring and trying to pull him down.
She calms me. You could be on one of those apps, you know, where you're one of those calm apps where you're just reading the story and you just have that quality about you in general, but definitely about your voice.
Plot twist. My sophomore world history teacher in high school told me I should be a phone sex operator.
God,
But that was super appropriate.
that you shouldn't say to a teenager, folks. Wow.
And it was a woman teacher.
Okay.
I don't think she's wrong either. I think it could be true. Like,
Silly.
I know is that what you were saying about it?
Also, you do have a very calming, some could say sensual quality to your voice. I wasn't going to go there, but I can definitely agree.
yeah. I mean, again, not wrong.
Yeah, totally could definitely agree. So there would be that. And you always just have little nuggets of beauty and wisdom that that I don't think lands on people always right away.
Yeah.
And then later you're like, what'd she say? wait, what was that? So that's just the great thing about you. And so yeah, I think you're
If you go in my office, you can find just random scraps of paper with sentences that Sarah said that I just wrote down that I don't remember why, what we were talking about, where it was, but it'll just be like a sentence and I'll put Sarah next to it. What?
You never know, and you're gonna need little nuggets.
You never know.
right. That's right. And you bring the nuggets. You
Always.
definitely bring the nuggets.
They're not from me.
Love it.
What about who you're looking for? Like, if you were to put a call out to a certain kind of woman or person, guest who you're looking. What feels? Since we're on emotions, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about feels.
I think we both kind of agreed on this, is that it's just so powerful to hear women share what they've gone through in their stories. And I think we at first had a very specific guest we had in mind. We want to help promote women businesses. We want to make sure we're lifting people up who are doing this work in the community. And while those things are still true, every woman has a story to tell, right?
Yeah.
Like everybody does. And there's something so powerful about listening to yourself. Everyone hates it at first.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, oh, I mean, almost every time I send a recording to a guest and say, do you have any feedback? They're like, oh, they rip themselves apart, you
Yeah.
know?
I didn't realize I said and then so many times. I didn't realize I said so many times. Yeah.
And it's just like, it's always like, oh, that's a bummer that that's what they heard. Because what I heard when I was editing was all this amazing things they had to say. Like, for example, Cristi was on and she told her story around Columbus and you know, the disparities that a lot of people face, and which was wonderful. But now she's going to come back in her 2-year anniversary of sobriety and talk about her story. And I feel like letting her also come back on and really dive into her and being able to use her voice to share her experiences. Like, that's a beautiful thing about this is I think we all have a story that we think is important that we want people to know about something that we're passionate about.
Sure.
but we are the journey.
Yeah.
Like our stories are what heals people. And I'm looking forward to finding women who maybe don't feel like they're enough or have enough of a story, quote unquote,
Yeah.
to be impactful. I want them to come on and feel empowered after hearing themselves share their story and have someone say, wow, that really resonated.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it doesn't have to be something that, you know, is movie quality scripted, right? And I think that's, I think we look for the person who's going to be on the stage and be the next, inspirational speaker, that kind of story.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't have to be that, right? And I think some of the most powerful, even TED Talks, are like, this was my experience. I just had this weird experience, and this is what I learned from it, right?
Right.
And so we're just now have opened the gates to decide, just bring it on, bring it on.
Yeah.
My 89-year-old neighbor's coming on.
Oh my God, amazing.
She's in her best life back here. She's reading,
so
she's
exciting.
taking photography and wants to write a book.
Yeah.
She's and has a sage amount of wisdom to
Yeah.
share, right? And we could probably do 6 or 8 episodes with her.
Yeah.
And maybe we do a series that's, Jackie's series, Who knows what this will turn into? But I
Yeah.
think the storytelling piece of it is like, well, who's next? What's their story going to be? And we at first we were curating it a little too much with the topic and the learning thing.
Yeah.
And and I think that it doesn't have to be that.
Right.
Just come on, and what do you want to tell us? What
Yes.
is your story that you think would be impactful to other people that you wish you would have heard about beforehand? Tell that story.
Yeah.
Right? Just tell us about you.
Yeah.
And I think that women don't realize that they have really powerful stories, and just that alone will impact somebody. To hear it from somebody else, to reflect within, right? We talk about that a lot, is that you're just reflecting my own stuff to me.
Yes.
And sometimes I need to see it through you to understand it in me.
Yeah.
And you guys have done that through your sobriety. You do it regularly, and we don't ever give ourselves credit or really see that we're impacting others. I know I don't,
Yeah.
but I also know I do on a mental basis. I can understand that, but I don't really give it cadence or credence very much in the moment, right?
Well, it's coming back to that, our willingness to be interconnected with
Yeah.
other people.
Yeah.
And that if I tell my story, it doesn't mean that Christy's story or Amanda's story is any less important.
Right.
It's we're building this full chorus of voices that all are singing these different notes, but we're in the same song.
Right.
And I just think that's a big shift out of where we've been, where it was important to be the only one singing on the stage, and this is about you and your business and all the
Yeah.
real ooh, I know you can't see me right now, but just the tension and the importance and the perfection of it all is, I really hear you guys saying set some of that stuff down.
Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Or allow us to help you hold it,
Yeah.
let the collective hold it for you. It's heavy, right? Like some of these things are really heavy, and sharing it lets people hold it with you, right? And so both of those things can be really beautiful in just the sharing. And that's really where we landed after all of this, is listening to people's feedback, and we were like, oh, that resonated with you. Like, that's what you took away from that interview. It's not what we thought at all was going to impact people.
Right.
And 2 different people could listen to the same interview and have completely different experiences of that, and what they took away from it, and what they loved about it, and what they felt about it. Even different than what I felt during the interview, or what she felt, or what Amanda felt during the interview. So it's so subjective.
Yes.
And why are we policing it?
Yeah.
Right? Like, Untamed Blossoms, for God's sake.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
it's untamed,
Yeah.
right? It just wants to be what it is, and just tell the story. And it takes a lot of pressure off of, like, my view of social media is that, a lot of these influencers, and I'm putting that in quotation marks, is like curating these events, and they're curating a message, and they're curating and setting it up. And we've all seen it in real life. Like, you can watch an influencer in real life setting up this perfect scenario and this perfect picture and this perfect thing. And it feels curated to me. Like that's not real, right? Like they're creating that. It's like creating a movie set.
Yeah.
So it's not really real, but we perceive it, the consumer, as it being a real, that's how they live.
Right.
No, then your whole world is shattered when you watch the videotape it and you're like, wow, that was not anywhere close to what, like, that's not really what it was. Right.
Yeah.
And so that's what I thought about having a podcast is I'm like, this feels curated in that I'm going to be a target and all these trolls are out there because there are some sweet humans who've become influencers on accident.
Yeah.
And then are sobbing because people are being so mean to them online. And although I love telling women's stories, I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in anything that's going to disrupt my peace. I've worked too hard to get to this place to be peaceful, to then open myself up to, well, God forbid you have this opinion or this way of saying this, or you look this way, or the set looks this way, or what you said, or just to be pulled apart.
Yeah.
That was probably my biggest fear of this whole thing.
Sure.
Is that I didn't want that. I didn't want, and I told her that. I'm like, girl, I can't be here for the trolls. I don't want to read the comments. I don't want, if people start to be mean, I don't want any part of that because.
And I said, I will handle this.
Like, I'm here
because
for it.
I think the reason why trolls exist or these people exist is because you hit a nerve. So if we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, it is 100% going to come with those people who are triggered and are just like, oh my gosh, how dare these two, blah, blah, blah. Or how dare this person say this thing, whether it be about sobriety or anything else, right? There's all these triggers that people have. And so it's going to happen. And I personally can't wait because you know what? I watch too much Drag Race for me to be worried about what people have to say.
The library is open.
The library is open.
And Untamed Blossoms is a projector, which will be a very alienating, or, everybody will love or hate certain parts of it. Right. And so it is going to attract those people. And you warned us of that from the beginning, which also made me go, oh God. Right. So,
not that it ever has to be a warning. I'm just, I see and hear you both also deciding like, here's what we're available for. And that's it. And when you energetically set those boundaries, it won't even matter if and when those people come because you are so strong. In that.
And I that was the shift of me. Like when I said, I don't give a fuck, that's where I had finally got enough sort of interviews and down the road enough that I was like, what am I worried about? I am telling women's stories, right? Like, what am I concerned about? Why am I living in this space?
Yeah.
It's okay just to tell our stories, and it's okay for however people perceive that story is about them.
Yeah.
It's not about us. It's not about Untamed Blossoms. It's about your perceptions. And so I don't need to be concerned about that. And I can just move forward and tell stories and have a beautiful space for women that is empowering them and letting them hear each other's voices. And isn't that what I want? Yeah. Isn't this a platform I would listen to? Yes. Right. And so that's all I have to be concerned about at this point, and let Amanda handle any troll stuff.
Life for this.
I'm going to be in the garden planting flowers, and you can handle the trolls.
When you say trolls, you mean troll dolls that have those coming politely.
Yes. The gnomes that we're going to put in the garden.
How about a last question of just any episode that you would go back and pour love over, just like infusing some extra love, extra energy into that person, into their topic or their business or whatever they shared?
Yeah, I could say every single one of them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was going to say that would be hard to pick just one. I think all of them have been so beautiful and impactful to our journey that we will always and forever have a special place in our heart for all of them.
Yeah. And there's always, especially when you're editing things, you're like, I wish I would have asked another question about that thing. Or I wish I would have stayed on that topic for a little bit longer. Or man, I could tell that she had something more to say about that. I wish I would have dug a little deeper. So it's always hard to put a finish episode out there knowing that you wish you could have asked one more thing or said one more thing. So I think that's the process. And as we interview more people and as similar themes continue to sprout up, we'll know to dig deeper in those topics. So
yeah, agreed. Well, thank you guys both so much.
Thank you
for having me and for sharing these stories and these laughs and feels. And I'm just excited for the second half of this year. It's not even, I can't emphasize that enough, that just you guys have done amazing, beautiful work at lightning speed. And
Thank you for encouraging us and
being part of our
talking off some ledges.
Yes.
And
shining your bright light on us in love and warmth. And, you know, I told Amanda this the other day. I'm like, you know, I don't know how Sarah does this, and I don't need to know. But you just show up in the most beautiful ways, whether it's via random text. And I don't know if you've gotten a download that you're like, Cristi needs you, or Amanda needs you. But you show up in the most beautiful ways and the most unexpected times and moments that is so beautiful and heartfelt. And
just that Leo winner.
I almost made it without crying. See?
yeah.
Bound to happen. Thank you so much. And we would love to have you on again because there's so more stories that you need to talk about.
For sure.
Specifically, I would love to do an episode around aliens soon. And can't wait for everyone to hear that. So awesome. Well, just remember, please give us a follow on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We have a lot of things we want to accomplish this year, and we just can't do that without followers. So
yeah,
any following on Instagram or Facebook will also help, and we'll have TikTok and YouTube coming soon.
Yes. And rate us, please. Send us to folks.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, we love you, and until next time.
Love you guys. Love you, Sarah.
Me too.
Bye.
Bye.